Coming up on today's Next Fan Up podcast.
I don't know. I just got a feeling. I'm going completely on gut. And, it's got that enzyme that makes you fart.
They don't do like, oh, not so good this year. We do the worst ever. That's what makes it special.
Have you ever cooked the turkey upside down?
Well, me or the turkey?
Hey, wait a second. That was yesterday's tease. Aha. Leftovers. Week 12, part 2. Here we go.
That's how we start! Yeah, baby!
32 super fans.
Where do the reports come from? Did you get an initial?
One pod Vader.
That's football.
Every angle of the NFL covered.
All that kind of stuff, I get it.
This,
no question about it,
is Next Fan Up.
We're going to unleash hell here in December.
Hello and welcome to the after Thanksgiving edition of the Next Fan Up podcast. Although you might be listening to this while you're eating your Thanksgiving Day dinner, but you might also be reacting to that extra ingredient that Doc so artfully put provides the farting and the need for stretchy pants on this particular day. Hey everybody, Pod Vader here with the super fans. It is Neil, our Washington super fan, James, our Eagle super fan, and the aforementioned Doc. Jeff Dockery, the award-winning Gridiron Chef, is here with us to give us the entirety of Week 12 in a nutshell. We gave you the 3 Thanksgiving Day games. Well, the 2 Thanksgiving Day games, and Baltimore-Pittsburgh got postponed to this Sunday. So we will not give you the Baltimore Ravens Pittsburgh Steelers preview on this particular show because we already gave it to you.
All right.
If you missed it, go back and listen.
This is where I'm supposed to pretend that this is a different show altogether. Okay, right. Yeah. So yeah. Hey guys, I'm just happy to be here. I've been stuffing a bird. I've been stuffing a bird all night, and remember, we don't do Thanksgiving here.
That's too bad. You really should. You really should look into it. Make it a holiday. It's a good cause.
Happy stretchy pants days and leftovers to everybody.
Absolutely.
You know what I like the most is my wife doesn't believe in leftovers. Well, that, and we usually celebrate the holiday over at her father's house. So she always does what I like to call the Thanksgiving after Thanksgiving, where she gets her own bird and then makes an entire Thanksgiving Day meal at some point over the course of the weekend. It'll probably either be Saturday or Sunday this year. So I always look forward to that. It's like I get 2 Thanksgivings, just like when I was a little kid and my parents were divorced. I got 2 Thanksgivings. I still get 2 Thanksgivings. It's fantastic.
You're just a slightly bigger kid.
Double the farts.
Exactly. Double the farts.
Double the
all right.
sleepiness.
Hey, speaking of double, you could double your money if you were to go to thrivefantasy.com and put in a $20 bonus, a $20 deposit. If you do, you'll use our promo code NEXTFANUP and you can get a $50 extra bonus to your $20 deposit. Let me tell you a little bit about Thrive Fantasy. They have eliminated the need to do countless hours of research because they only ask you about the top tier athletes in a respective sport, such as the NFL, where you choose only 10 out of the 20 player prop option to build your lineup. Each prop has a fantasy point total, and depending on the over under, based on the likelihood to occur, you're going to get more points. The more points a selection is worth, the riskier it is. You rack up the most points, you get a share of the prize pool. They've awarded over $1.4 million in prizes since they launched in 2018. So go to thrivefantasy.com or download the Thrive Fantasy app on the App Store or Play Store. Use that promo code NEXTFANUP. When you put in a $20 deposit, your first $20 deposit, you will get up to a $50 bonus. Sign up and hashtag PropUp today. That is thrivefantasy.com. I'm not going to go over the Pigskin Pick'em again because we went over that on yesterday's show. I will tell you, though, before we get into the stats, my totally useless stats. This season in the NFL, there have been 12 games in which a team has overcome a deficit of at least 14 points to win. That is tied with the 1996 and 1979 seasons for the third most such games through Week 11 in NFL history. Only the 1987 season in which 15 games, and the 2011 season, in which there were 14 games, had more. This season, there have been 33 games in which a team has overcome a deficit of at least 10 points to win, and that is the most through Week 11 in NFL history. Also, through the season's first 11 weeks, the league has produced 28 games, or 2.54 per week, in which the winning team earned the deciding points in either the final 2 minutes of regulation or overtime. In other words, it's been a fairly competitive season, despite the fact that we have an undefeated team and a bunch of have teams and a bunch of not have teams like the NFC East.
Hey.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
First game on Sunday is...
Wow, look at that. You can tell that we recorded a show right before this because we're jumping right into things. Sunday at 1:00 Eastern, we have the Las Vegas Raiders at the Atlanta Falcons.
James is grumpy.
The Raiders are ranked 14th in the power rankings. The Falcons are 21st. Somehow they moved up in the power rankings despite a horrific loss last week. Raiders are favored by 3. Atlanta has won the past 4 versus the Raiders, but both teams coming off losses in which one team only scored 9 and the other was 31. Since I already mentioned that the Falcons had a horrific loss, I'll give you a guess as to who scored only 9 points last week. By the way, the narrative is starting to grow that the Raiders are real playoff contenders
Yes,
this
sir.
season. Yeah. We're all taking the Raiders in this one.
Yep, pretty much.
They're gonna do some damage.
Yeah, you know, Doc, if I was the Kansas City Chiefs, I would not want to be facing the Raiders again this season. Because they're a team who looks like they've got their number. They had them once, and that was a really, really, really good game the other night. And you could see that going either way, a third game. So I bet the Chiefs are thinking, no thanks.
Derek Carr is going to move himself into the MVP conversation before this is all over. The way he's playing,
No, he can't win it. Russell Wilson, he's guaranteed. But MJ has sent us this write up. The injury report still lists Julio as a game time decision with a hamstring injury. On the defensive side, linebacker Michael Walker is also listed as questionable for week 12. Considering Jones has not been 100% healthy the last few years, if he is healthy enough to play, he's definitely going to want to go out there and play. On the opposite side of the ball, the O-line has got to do a better job in hold blocks, giving the plays time to develop. Anyone in the backfield of playing just off the line has got to be aware and pick up the blitz. There were a number of times the blitz was not picked up last week, resulting in Ryan getting sacked and otherwise pressured more than he needed to be. If those issues are not addressed, the Dirty Birds have little hope of winning this game. And let me tell you, that Mad Max guy is coming for Matt Ryan. Defense has to get pressure on Derek Carr, throw him off his game, slow down his production. Defense has got to play well, not make the same mistakes they made last week and from earlier this season. Linebacker group looked okay last week, but they have got to do better covering the middle, not allowing the Raiders offense to get too many of those 3 to 4 yard pickups that can easily add up to first downs and tiring out the defense. He does predict Atlanta 35, Raiders 31. I don't know what the over-under is on this, but that seems rather high for this game.
The Raiders' defense is not that bad, and neither is the Falcons, honestly. It's possible for both teams to score in the 20s, but I don't see how Atlanta pulls this out.
Not with that offensive line.
Monty, if you follow him on Twitter, at Monsadius, he's pretty easy to find, and also one of the coolest names in the history of the earth, has a shirtless picture of Travis Kelce as his avatar, which is just disturbing. And
I'm guessing he lost the bet.
He did lose a bet to Kansas City, Nick. Raiders were 6-4 at this same point last year and finished the season 7-9. They probably need 10 wins to have a shot at the wild card. I believe this team is different than last year. They just got Mike Singletaried and went out and got hit in the mouth. This week we find out if they're winners. People that want to win, they should beat Hotlanta easily, but I'll settle for an ugly win. Just win, baby. Salud. He's too busy brining his turkey still. He doesn't even know what he's saying. But we're all taking the Raiders. I don't see the way that the Falcons bounce back from that pathetic performance last week.
Yeah, I guess especially against a Saints team that, for all intents and purposes, we heard Sean Payton say that Taysom Hill was going to be the quarterback. I don't think anybody actually believed it until they lined up for the first snap. Because it's kind of the same thing last year, and he's been, paraphrased or quoted this season saying that in an impromptu situation where Breeze gets knocked out or it's a short week, that Winston would be the starter, both the full week of practice is Taysom Hill. He said the same thing last year when they had Teddy Bridgewater, and yet we got Teddy Bridgewater for 5 straight starts. They would go 5-0. Rest is history. And yet, to some extent, I still believe that Jameis Winston was going to line up and be the starter this week. And look, for the way he called that game on Sunday against Atlanta, that I don't understand how the Falcons weren't ready for like every gadget play in the book with Taysom Hill lined up back there. And they just look confused and lost on defense. And the Raiders don't do nearly as much gimmicking and gadget stuff, but offensively, the stuff they do well. They're very sound in how they execute. We already mentioned they gave the Chiefs fits last week. I don't look. Raheem Morris has done a great job in turning this defense around and getting them playing better. There are too many weapons that David Carr has to play with in his offense, and I don't think there's enough talent on that Falcons defense to keep track.
No. I will say this. We haven't watched it, guys. It's simple as this. The alchemy between the defensive backfield and your defensive line. And you said it, Pod Crosby, right? That offensive line is weak. 8 sacks last week, but more like 5 or 6 of them were coverage sacks. There's something wrong with Julio. He was in, he was out, but they shut down every other receiver, and Matt looked horrible. I just think right now more so that the one thing about preparing for Taysom, it provides you a play action opportunity that Drew doesn't. And you can play action the Falcons and beat them. There is talent on that back end, but they got beat twice, and Hill threw both passes to Sanders. They were both caught, one for a touchdown, called back as of a holding. But play action with Carr works very well. That run game is efficient, sometimes really good. Darren Waller is still playing off the charts. I just think there's too much talent, a much better team, the Raiders, with momentum, and the Raiders have got to keep up, because there's 10 wins is not going to guarantee you a playoff spot. This, to me,
not in the
should
AFC.
Be a rule. Yeah. So,
James, did you give us the injuries on this one?
Well, MJ already talked about the Falcon injuries. He pretty much covered that. For the Raiders, if you want, there's only 3 names here. Offensive tackle Sam Young, running back Jalen Richard, and defensive tackle Maurice Hurst. All listed as questionable at the time of this recording.
All right. So we'll move to the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Buffalo Bills. The Chargers 25th in the power rankings. The Bills are 7th and are favored by 5.5 points in this one. Justin Herbert has 5 games with at least 3 touchdown passes this season, which is the most by a rookie quarterback in NFL history. Herbert, who has 22 touchdown passes this season, is also the first rookie quarterback with at least 2 touchdown passes in 7 consecutive games in NFL history, and he could make it 8 straight on Sunday. And while I think he might make it 8 straight with 2 touchdown passes, I don't think he's going to win. We are all taking the nope. 3 of us are taking the Bills, but Doc, you are on an island taking the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that he is rewriting the rookie record books. He's going to put up the points. The Bills, when they've been in track meets, have gotten a lot of breaks, and I just think that this could be one of those 31-30 games, and I got a feeling. But it's a matter, all comes down to whether Josh Allen shows up with a good head or a bad head, because he's right now been playing decent, but and sometimes over the top. But the fact is that I still not sold. He is going to come out and have one of these brain cramp games, and that's just a hunch that I think this is a track meet, and I think that Herbert right now is a better quarterback, so it's just a hunch. And plus, if I'm wrong, there's no repercussions. So.
Yeah. And you know what? To piggyback on what Doc just said, of the Bills' 7 victories, 5 have been by one score. The last game they played, that we saw them play against the Cardinals, Hail Mary, 2-point victory by the Cardinals. They do play far too many close games to have any real faith in them going into the playoffs to say this team will definitely win. And the Chargers somehow snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, or the other way around, depending on how you look at it. These are two teams that always play in close games throughout the course of the season, and it's hard to trust either one of them, really. I mean, you go with the Bills because they've won, but every time you think the Chargers are going to win a game that, you know, they should hold on to, either the offense fails on 4th or 3rd down, or the defense gives up a late score. So it's the only reason I'm picking the Bills. They just have the better record at this point. That's all I'm going with.
What's the injuries?
For the Buffalo Bills, we got John Brown is questionable with an ankle injury, and Cody Ford, the tackle, along with running back Tawan Jones, are also listed as questionable. For the Chargers, Uchenna Nwaso, their linebacker, he is out. He sprained his AC joint in the last game against the Jets. Cornerback Casey Hayward, he suffered an inner thigh injury during the last game, so he's listed as questionable.
The New York Giants are at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Giants are 27th. The Bengals are 30th. Giants are favored by 6. Bengals lost their only hope. Joe Burrow, you're our only hope, to a massive knee injury. Not only the ACL, but the MCL, a couple of structural things, maybe a kneecap. Might have been a wishbone somewhere in that knee at some point. But
the
Joe Burrow,
not meant to bend that way.
Joe Burrow is out for some significant time. That means Ryan Finley is now the quarterback of the rest of what the Bengals call the football team. So, unfortunately, as bad as the NFC East is, I think the Giants are going to come away with a victory in this one, and we all agree, Neil.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I watched the Bengals obviously last week against Washington, and as long as Burrow was in the game, they were moving the ball up and down the field. Maybe not so great in the red zone, but otherwise moving it fairly steadily. But as soon as he went out, you could sense not only that Finley wasn't obviously clearly not as good a player, but there was a certain, the shoulders were slumping, and you just have general sense from the Bengals that they knew they were done. And Washington went on to win the game quite easily. I don't see that being any different this week, and I think the Giants have got a break there with Burrow being out. So yeah, I think they'll stroll to a victory in this game.
The guys, this was inevitable. It's like, for God's sakes, Burrow was on his way. It was his 404th throw, right? And so you're throwing the ball that much a game. You've run it 37 times. I wrote this down. 34 tackles. He's been sacked 32 times. He's been hit 53 more times. 125 total hits in a season. What did we expect? I feel sorry for the kid. And it's unfortunate now. He's got the same injury that I had. Exactly almost the same. Lateral and MCL plus ACL that cost me a football scholarship in Michigan. And I will tell you, so I got tremendous empathy, but that kid was on his way to getting a nod for Rookie of the Year. But I don't think with our Chargers QB, heading towards 5,000 yards and 35 touchdowns or whatever it is. But I just feel so sorry for that kid. I think the Giants right now are heading towards an East title. James, I know you probably might think the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I think the Giants have got a particularly hard schedule the rest of the way after this week. So I'm not so sure about that, Doc. I think they've got probably the toughest of the schedules.
Hey, it's anybody's divisions to win except for that team that resides in Pennsylvania.
Let's see here. Giants have the Seahawks, Cardinals, Browns, Ravens, and Cowboys remaining.
Yeah. Their only injury this week is Kevin Zeitler, who's in concussion protocol. That's their guard. The Bengals, Alden Tate, the wide receiver, he's going to be out. He was placed on the reserve COVID list earlier today. Mike Thomas.
By the way, that's a red flag. We'll let's red flag it. We already had one game postponed due to COVID there, and I've seen a lot of COVID lists this past week. But when you get a COVID edition on a Wednesday, that's usually that's usually the precursor for more to come.
Indeed, and B.J. Finley was activated from the reserve COVID list, so he won't be eligible to play yet. That's the center. Mike Thomas, wide receiver, and Fred Johnson, a tackle, are listed as questionable.
What I'm surprised about is with the encouraging news about the vaccine, obviously it's going to be starting to be rolled out here in this country in mid-December, that we haven't heard anything about the NFL securing vaccines for all their players, coaches, and staff yet.
I don't think it'll happen.
Would it not be allowed? Would that not be allowed to happen?
I think it scientifically it matters how many vaccines there are. I think
and how effective they are.
There's 3 more coming, and the fact is to have it in time, you can't put them ahead of emergency workers.
No,
I totally agree. I just wonder. We haven't heard anything about it. No discussion, anything. Certainly I haven't heard.
There would be hell to pay if it was this early in the game, I think.
Yeah. The Cleveland Browns are at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Browns move up to 11th in the power rankings. The Jaguars remain steady at 31. Browns are favored by 6.5 points in this one. The Browns are off to their best start since 1994 when they opened up 8-2. One of the hallmarks of their overall success in 2020 has been winning the close games. Oh, look at that. Bringing back my totally useless stats. The Browns are one of 7 teams this season with a winning percentage of at least 700 in games decided by 7 points or less. Browns are 4-0 in those particular games. The Steelers are 5-0. The Chiefs are 3-0. The Titans are 6-1. The Saints are 4-1. The Bills are 4-1. And the Rams are 3-1. And those are your other teams that have that particular thing. I don't think this is going to be a close game, though, so they're not going to have to worry about that. We are all taking the Cleveland Browns in this one, James.
So, first thing, question, does anybody know who's playing quarterback for the Jaguars this week?
Yes, it's been announced that Mike Glennon will start for the Jaguars this week.
That is correct. Now, here's the backbreaker on top of that, him being the 3rd quarterback to start for the
or the neck breaker, because you don't have that big neck.
The Jacksonville Jaguars' entire defensive coaching staff is not going to be at this game due to COVID.
Oh, that's interesting.
Defensive coordinator, DB coach, D-line coach, linebackers coach, they're all going to be absent from this game. Not even in a booth somewhere else in the stadium, spaced out apart from each other. No, they won't even be in the stadium. No defensive coaching personnel will be present at this game whatsoever. This will be interesting.
We haven't talked about Dougie's job there. Is he in trouble in Jacksonville?
I mean, considering the crap show he's had at quarterback, I don't know. Should he be in trouble? I mean, the original starter, Minshew, got hurt. Luton did not play well.
Now they got rid of – sorry, James. They got rid of Coughlin, didn't they, in the last offseason? Yeah. And I wonder if that was a bit of a deal there, get rid of Coughlin and you get another year or two. There's nothing we've really heard, is it? We haven't heard like he's in big trouble or anything. So I wonder if he'll get a chance with it. If they get the 2nd overall pick, which they're online on course to get at the moment, I wonder if he'll get a chance with a young rookie quarterback first before they dump him. I don't know.
Well, if the Jets win a game, their percentage chances move up. So I think they gauge that as, are we going to get a number 1 quarterback at number 1? And are we going to draft him? And if we are we talking Bieniemy? Are we talking some flavor of the month? And I think that would go hand in hand. So I think they'll have to let the season play out. But the more where are they going to sit in the draft, I think will affect that decision.
Because that's the key, right? We don't want to see what happened to Darnold, who's had, 3 or 4 different coaches at this point in his career? you don't want to start
No.
your top young quarterback with Doug Marrone and then bring in a brand new coach next year.
It goes back to the.
I can't feel any sympathy for Darnold in this case. Neil knows this. He had a quarterback there who had, 4 offensive coordinators in 4 seasons in Washington. And pretty much when his rookie deal was up, they didn't even bother re-signing him. They just kicked him to the curb. Continuity of the game is pretty much it's a myth. I mean, if you strike lightning in a bottle for 2 seasons in a row, congratulations, you will definitely hold on to your job. But outside of that, the biggest consistency is inconsistency in coaching.
Yeah.
I think we can go back to the conversation we had whenever we did the last podcast a few days ago, Jay, that about Matthew Stafford. It's sort of a similar situation. You've got to get your young quarterback together with an offensive coordinator or offensive head coach and stick with them, and then you'll reap the results. One does wonder sometimes in the history of the NFL how many quarterbacks actually, how many great quarterbacks have we missed because the situation they were put in was untenable for them as a young developing person.
Mm-hmm.
So
we call it the David Carr syndrome.
Yeah, there you go. There's a perfect example, David Carr. And then you can see this year you've got Herbert, who looked terrible in his last 2 seasons in Oregon, absolutely terrible. But he just wasn't in the right system with the right staff, right coaches, around him. Put him into the Chargers setup. They've got an offense which is geared really for his strengths. And so far, that's paying off, and you can see a totally different guy. Anybody who says they knew Herbert was going to be an outstanding rookie quarterback is lying to you, because he was horrendous in his last couple of years in Oregon, and now he looks really, really promising.
Well, what's funny about that is I listened to all the draftniks talk bad about Justin Herbert, and yet the lasting impression most people had about Herbert was his performance in the Rose Bowl, which was much different than what the draft.
Wisconsin, was it? Who did he beat?
I think that could be right.
I forget who he ended up beating, but he ended up winning that game, and he looked good doing it.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, this Shane's. How do you pronounce his last name? Steichen, the offensive coordinator. Who? What? Where? What? What? There's no Darrell Bevel, Ken Wisenhunt, Gus Brett. But I don't know. There's some magic happening there. Maybe he puts up 5,000 yards. How can this guy not get a look for a head coach? I don't know. It's flavor of the month, right? But you're right, Neil. There's so many examples. I mean, if you just take a look at the critical things, like right now, you get at Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, any of the good passing pocket quarterbacks. If you get after them, take off a half a second of their reads, like what Tom Brady apparently getting roasted by his coach. No, he didn't. The fact is, they ransacked him. He couldn't get through his reads. No quarterback is good enough to beat a defensive line that is going to blow through in 2 seconds or less.
Yeah,
that's a fact. You want to beat Breeze, you get to him. You want to beat Rodgers, you get to him, or Brady, get to him. It's as simple as that. You don't, you're probably going to lose. So it's about the offensive lines. The hogs, the big stinking uglies are the critical elements of this game for anybody, including an elite quarterback that has those skills.
Forget the injury that we saw Burrow get. That's the extreme end of it. But if you looked at Joe Burrow's season, whenever he got a couple of seconds, 3-4 seconds to make a play, he looked an absolute all-pro. But then behind that offensive line, those moments were few and far between. And the rest of the time, he was getting 1.5, 2 seconons, and he was getting crushed and looked terrible. So
Burrow's stats were right there with Herbert's before the injury.
That's just how it plays in this.
Well, remember that one week, Neil, they had all their offensive linemen out, and they basically kept him upright. That was an anomaly, I guess. But the fact is that you let anybody. Oh my God, can you imagine?
Yeah,
it's like so many parallels in life.
Yeah, Jay. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Jay, you mentioned the Herbert there. Swap those guys over, Herbert and Burrow, into the two different into the opposite teams, and you would be talking about Burrow as being the greatest rookie quarterback we've ever seen. I would still take him over Herbert, and that might not be music to everybody's ears. but when he got time, Burrow, he looked like a seasoned pro. So let's hope he comes back strong.
Back to Jags and Browns.
I was about to say, we did spend a lot of time talking about young quarterbacks in the Jacksonville Jaguars. We spent no time talking about the Browns, who are going to destroy the Jaguars in this game. So, James, just give us the injury report, and we shall move on to a game that is waiting for us.
Yes.
Oh, I'm drooling over the next one.
Sidney Jones is doubtful with an Achilles for the Jaguars. Guard Andrew Norwell is also doubtful with an arm injury. Shaq Quartermain and R.B. Jones are placed on injured reserve. For the Browns, Myles Garrett is going to miss another week due to being COVID positive. Denzel Ward is going to miss the game. He's out with a calf injury. And safety Sheldon Redwine and Ronnie Harrison Jr. are listed as questionable with knee and bone bruise on the knee, respectively.
Yeah, if it was any other team, the Denzel Ward injury could be a big one, but it's the Jaguars with Mike Glennon. We're not worried. Mm-hmm. All right. As I teased, a big one for the AFC South. Sorry, the Tennessee Titans at the Indianapolis Colts. The Titans are 9th in the power rankings. The Colts are 8th. The Colts are favored by 3.5 points in this one. Derrick Henry, who also registered a 5-yard overtime touchdown run in Week 6, is the first player with multiple overtime rushing touchdowns in a single season in NFL history. Can you believe that? It's never been done before. Congratulations, Derrick Henry. I'm surprised in the year 2020 we're still seeing things that haven't been done before in the NFL. I really don't have any other reason than I like the Titans more. I'm taking the Titans in this game, but this should be a good one. And I won't be watching it because I'll be watching my team get blown out. But if you do have the opportunity, this is probably one of a couple of games of the week. This is going to be a good one. Neil, you are going with the Colts. You like them more?
I went with the Colts. I mean, you're right, Jay. I mean, what you said there, absolutely spot on. It's one of those games where you think these two teams are probably pretty close. Huh? I quite liked the fact that Indianapolis put up a really good comeback and a really good demonstration that they can win games from behind against it was the Packers, wasn't it? They were well down in that game and they came back to win it. So that was encouraging. I thought the running game looked a bit better than it has done so far this year. Although their offensive line struggled against the Packers. I think they had a whole load of holding penalties in that game, which was a bit odd. But I do like the Colts to be a sneaky playoff team. The Titans, we know, have got the ability to be a good playoff team, and I'm guessing that this is a game that we're going to see again at some point down the line. Wouldn't you say? So I'll go with the home team. Very, very, a very, very 3-point win, that sort of game. But like you say, Jay, this is most certainly one of the games of the week, if not the game of the week.
James, you're on the Titans bandwagon with me.
Yeah, I'm still disappointed in the Titans. They played 2 weeks ago on a Thursday night, and the Titans basically crapped the bed after halftime. It's like they went in the locker room content where they were and just came out flat in the second half and let Phillip Rivers do whatever he wanted when he wanted. And that's just not Vrabel's defensive scheme. It's almost as if this defense quit in the second half. They weren't able to get any pressure. They couldn't react to the run fast enough. They let the wide receivers run free through every single coverage scheme they had. I mean, they have the horses in the secondary to get up and challenge these wide receivers, yet they don't. Look, give it to the Colts. They came back against Green Bay this past Sunday, played a great game. You're still never going to sell me on Phillip Rivers being the guy to get it done in any franchise whatsoever. But, here they are playing again for first place in this division. So I'm just going with the Titans because I honestly believe they are the better team across the board.
Yeah, apparently the secondary, while they're not challenging receivers, is too busy challenging head coaches like Harbaugh of the Baltimore Ravens. I tried to find anything about the little scuffle between the Titans and the Ravens and found nothing, and didn't find anything on Harbaugh refusing to shake hands with Mike Vrabel after the game either. I couldn't find anything on that. But that was an interesting little.
Yeah, that was a real college football moment, really, to start the game. The Titans standing there on the Baltimore logo, which encompasses the Maryland flag in there, and doing whatever it is they were doing at center field. And Harbaugh took offense to either them being there or someone saying something. And not to say that it's still out of control, because Harbaugh was I think he was the only person from the Ravens sideline to come out and respond to or say something. It was much ado about nothing, and the game pretty much followed suit afterwards. I mean, it was a good game, but
Harbaugh,
who knows?
Harbaugh's a smart coach. He needed some motivation, change things up. He probably looked to one of his assistants and said, "Watch this," and went and made it happen, tried to inspire his team, right? I will disagree that the Tennessee Titans are a better team. I think DeForest Buckner is making his money right now, and Justin Houston has found the fountain of youth. I think Rock Ya-Sin and that secondary can make the Titans a one-dimensional offense. I don't want to be pounded by Derek for 4 quarters either, but the fact is, if they can keep – I think those holding penalties were an anomaly. There's holding on every single offensive line play. They just happened. It was the weirdest thing. Just one flag after another flag. It was sick. It took 20 minutes to play 2 minutes on the clock. I just think right now Indianapolis is a better team overall. What's his name? Stewart, the running back, or Jonathan Taylor, I should say, not Jonathan Stewart. I'm dating myself there. And Hines, I picked him up in my fantasy team. They're playing him more in whiteout. I just think right now, with the growth of Michael Pittman and everything, if they can keep that old man upright, they are a serious playoff contender. I think they're the better team right now.
No truth to the rumor that Doc's fantasy team is the friend that I always talk about.
I would say
keeping that old man upright. He is on the injury report with a toe injury. Frank Reich has mentioned that, so he's questionable for Sunday. Other Colts showing up: Brayton Smith, Noah Togai, and Isaiah Rodgers, the corner. For the Titans, Adam Humphries, tongue-tied, Roger Saffold, Adoree Jackson, Kenny Vaccaro, and Michael Pruitt all show up on the injury report as questionable as well. But
I think if it wasn't for a certain Aaron Donald down there, the Rams, DeForest Buckner would be being talked about a lot more, because he is not far behind him. He is exactly, James. What a great player he is. He really is, and it's such a shame that Donald is around, because maybe now he's in a different conference. Maybe he'll get the All-Pro recognition that he deserves, because he's a phenomenal player.
Agreed.
This game is only interesting because I know who picked whom. The Miami Dolphins are at the New York Jets. The Dolphins are 15th. I don't know how the Dolphins moved down in the power rankings, but okay, they're 15th. The Jets remain solid and unanimous at 32. Dolphins favored by 7. This is my lock of the week. Again, it's easy to lock any team against the Jets. So continue to do it. But Doc is calling for the upset.
They're going to enrage Brooklyn and Hell's Kitchen and Chinatown. They're going to be up and out. What the hell are you doing? I just think right now, I got this smelling feeling that the Dolphins were a little more normal than we thought. And I think that, hey, the Jets at times, and especially at defense, have played fairly tough. I don't know. It's just a feeling. And again, if I'm wrong, there's no repercussions. So why not? Yeah.
I mean, we knew Tua was going to stumble, and he stumbled a little bit last week, and they took him out of the game. But Tua is back, right? They've said Tua remains the starter. I just don't. There's no possible way. The Jets have nothing on offense. Nothing. Is the aforementioned Sam Darnold back this week?
He is listed as questionable with that shoulder injury, a limited participant in practice on Wednesday. Other Jets showing up: Rashard Perriman, the wide receiver; Blake Cashman, the linebacker; George Fant, the tackle; Shuma Adoga, the other tackle, and Chris Herndon, the tight end, with all the myriad of injuries. The Dolphins, no real injury to the report except Solomon Kinley, who left last Sunday's game with a foot injury. He is listed as questionable.
There's literally been, I mean, I shouldn't say literally, but I have heard very little talk other than on our own podcast about Adam Gase's troubles in New York. I think if Adam Gase wins this game, Doc, he's fired on the spot.
Yep. Yeah,
I mean,
that'll seal it.
I don't know. Do you guys have the Jets schedule for the rest of the season? Because we should do the same as we did the other day with the Steelers, possibly going 16-0. Who are they playing, guys? They could make them get a win.
I have it right here. So we have the Dolphins. They're home against the Dolphins this week. Okay, next week they're home against the Raiders.
Not the loss.
At the Seahawks.
Not the loss.
At the Rams.
That's a loss.
Home against the Browns.
That's a loss.
That's a win.
And they close out in New England.
Yeah, that's the one I'm worried about.
Yeah.
I'm being in true sincerity.
Really,
I'm worried about that. One, because the Patriots dropped what they thought was a meaningless game to the Dolphins last season at the end of the year, and I just. That one frightened me.
If the Patriots are out of the running for the playoffs, do the Patriots let the Jets win so that they don't get Trevor Lawrence?
I'm sorry, Belichick plays his starters all the way through. What are you talking about?
What?
Yeah, but Neil brings up a very good point. If they're at a point where if the Jets win that game and they do not get the first round choice because they've won the game, I can see a Belichickian. That is Belichickian chess right there.
To let them win the last game of the season, so they go 1-15.
Yeah, and so they end up with Justin Fields and not Trevor Lawrence.
God forbid.
Say, look, if you guys go into the last week with a chance to be 500, say you're 7-8, 8-7, or whatever it is at this point, you're playing. You have nothing to play for because we all agree 8 wins is not enough to get you into the playoffs in the AFC. You're saying that he would probably bench Cam for one of the other two Jamokes in his quarterback room to start the game? Seriously?
No. He would. Is that a noun? No, he would totally let Cam play. That's his best chance to lose the game is to let Cam play.
Cam is the best chance to win and lose. Got it.
Oh, could you imagine the hellfire in New York City? Oh my God!
There's literally no way the Jets win this game. There's no way.
Look, man, I think this is their best chance to win a game between now and the end of the season.
Yeah.
Well, Neil's got the Browns as a victory for the Jets too.
Yeah.
But now we got the Jets going 3 wins. 3-win Jets. My God!
Oh my gosh! This is not how you go 3-13. This is just not how you do it.
Yeah, but James, as difficult as it is to go 16-0, it's also equally as difficult to go 0-16. It's just the way things are, and
but
especially
0-16 happened like what 3 times?
The Jets
in my
are
lifetime?
asking you to hold their beer at this point.
Yeah.
Do you know the Jets have right now a 69.3% chance of picking number 1. The closest to them is the Jags at 27.2. If they win,
if we want to be truly guaranteed they go 0-16. We can call up Dan Orlovsky. He can run out the end zone a couple more times.
Yeah, really. Hey, his stock. Can you believe his stock is rising? People have a really short memory, man. I'll tell you, he's the hottest prospect analyst right now at the mothership. You know, he's good, but
hey.
Yeah.
He knows how to speak to the younger generation, and he's doing stuff that previous analysts hadn't done. Although there are other guys that do exactly the same thing that he does that are on that roster at ESPN. And well, let's not get myself into trouble. What's the injury report here, James?
Yeah.
We already went over it. I'm just waiting for the next game.
Oh, good. Very well. Excellent. Yeah, because that was a lot of talk about a team that's going to lose 16 games. The Carolina Panthers are at the Minnesota Vikings. Panthers are 19th in the power rankings. The Vikings are 20th. They are favored by 4 points. James, we'll start with you. You have the Panthers.
Yeah, and I'm a bit concerned about taking the Panthers there because, everything was looking like Bridgewater was going to start. And I didn't find out until the first highlight of the game shown on the Red Zone that it was P.J. Walker. And don't get me wrong, I know who P.J. Walker is because I watched the XFL earlier this season until, it was canceled. And he's a solid backup. He adequated himself quite well with the game plan last week. And, again, we talk about this young defense when we talked about the Lions on the Thursday their Thursday game. But this defense came out and, probably the best performance they've had all season. Shutting out the Lions, stifling Stafford, not offense, not giving up much in yardage, and blanking them on the scoreboard at the same time. This is a tougher test, though. They're going up against Dalvin Cook and a Minnesota team that had no business losing to Dallas last week. So Bridgewater is still listed as questionable this week with the same leg injury. Hopefully the extra week does him good and he actually starts and it's not a game-time decision. Christian McCaffrey is listed as doubtful, so there's still some concern whether he will or won't play. I'd say keep an eye on that through Saturday and Sunday with his shoulder injury. Those are the two biggest names. Also showing up, Russell Okung, safety Sam Franklin, and guard John Miller. The Vikings, Ezra Cleveland, their tackle, is the only person of question. Look, I don't know what to make of this Vikings team. They are faltering against teams they shouldn't be faltering against. That Dallas game is one they shouldn't have lost last week. They had the recipe going. They just, I don't know how or why they let Dallas's defense get in their heads and stifle them. They couldn't stop the offense. Andy Dalton looked like, I don't know, Boomer Esiason in some instances. It was just weird to see Dalton play that well last week against the Vikings. So hopefully they fix things, but I don't know if they get it done against the Panthers this week.
P.J. Walker, a lot of talk about the reason why he ended up going to Carolina is because he knows Matt Rule's system, having played for him in college. Now, I think I have seen that Teddy Bridgewater is on track to play this week.
Yep.
So Teddy Two Gloves should be back, and the Panthers certainly have an upswing. But I wonder how short the leash would be on Teddy Two Gloves, considering that we've now seen P.J. Walker play and play fairly well.
I don't think that's a concern. Again, Walker's performance was good enough to get the job done. They only scored 17 points. And Walker threw
20.
Pretty bad.
Yeah, 2 end zone picks, wasn't it?
Yeah, picks in the end zone. And they were ugly. That's the other thing. These were not, a guy came out of nowhere that, he probably missed or whatever. No, the coverage was there. There was no reason to throw the football in those situations, and yet he did. So, no, I don't think there's, between the 20s, it looked good between the 20s. In the red zone, not so much. I mean, there definitely should have been more points scored.
Neil, you are also going with the Panthers here.
I mean, very encouraging this year, the Panthers. One recalls back to the NFL draft where they had all the selections and they took defensive players with every selection. That was the first time that's ever happened. That was really interesting to see. And they've just been an interesting team to watch. They've kind of come out. You often think of some teams like no real identity and they're a bit sort of like a bit blah, a bit vanilla. And I've always thought the Panthers were a bit like that. But this year, they've caught my imagination with the new head coach, very much like Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator who came from LSU. And here they are putting in some really impressive performances. And when you play a team in the NFL and the other team doesn't score a point, then it doesn't matter who they are. That's a really impressive thing to do. And I probably would have stuck with P.J. Walker, but still go back to Bridgewater. He's been pretty good. But there's a really good feel there with the Panthers. Now I can see them continuing that in this game. I think they're they just feel like a team on the rise and a team who has a plan, and that's really important. So I'll go with them to win this game. Oh man, what do you say about the Vikings, Jay? I mean, 1 week, they had a run there, didn't they, where they won 3 or 4 games. But now they're what are they 4-6? I think that's the end of their season, isn't it? It's not like they're playing in the NFC East.
Exactly. I will say this though, because Doc, you're with me on the Vikings. Kirk Cousins, for as much as James loves to rail on him, is one of 3 quarterbacks with 20-plus touchdown passes in each of his past 6 seasons, and he's at 20 this season. The other 2 quarterbacks that he's in the same company as are Tom Brady and Russell Wilson. That said, the game plan in this one is to let Dalvin cook. Just give the ball to Dalvin Cook and let him run and score. And speaking of Dalvin Cook, he has 18 touchdowns in 18 career home games, aims for his 11th in a row at home with a rushing touchdown. He has 17 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown in those 18 career home games.
Look, I'm also looking at this as a homecoming revenge game because, remember, it was Zimmer's decision ultimately to cut Teddy Bridgewater after he came back from that horrific knee injury and because the doctors told him he wouldn't heal completely and be healthy in the long term. So, it was a bad decision all around with because that was the season they basically played all 3 quarterbacks. They had Bradford to start the season. Who came in to take him to the NFC Championship that they end up jettisoning to who left for Denver. Kellen
Moore.
And then Bridgewater played mop-up duty at the end in a meaningless game because they had already locked up the 2 seed that year. And, we go into the offseason thinking, oh, it's a conundrum. They have this wealth of, guys they could decide to resign, and ultimately they sign Kirk Cousins by robbing a bank, basically, to sign him. And I feel like they were bidding against themselves to get Kirk Cousins because I don't think any other team would have paid that at the time, the $84 million guaranteed for 3 seasons. And it hasn't worked out. It's pretty much bitten them in the butt the whole time. Yeah, they went to the playoffs last year, but that's 1. They don't even have a winning record under Kirk Cousins.
James, I mean, you guys will agree. You can have as many stats as you want about players and teams and all the rest of it. But in many ways, it also comes down to the eye test. And what did we see last week? We saw the first team in about 6 weeks not being able to get any pressure on a Dallas quarterback after they've basically been swamped with pressure on their quarterback all season long by every other team. And we saw a team that couldn't stop the pass and basically couldn't stop the run. Defensively, they were awful. And the eye test tells you that defense needs a lot of work, and it's been a huge letdown. They're scoring points, like Jay said. Cousins has got his 20 touchdowns, and Cook's got his 18 touchdowns, and they look fine offensively, but defensively,
and they're 4-6.
Yeah, and my eye tells you that the defense is the reason they're 4-6.
And they emptied out the defense.
Every veteran player they ever had on.
Yeah, they emptied it out.
So, yep,
they emptied it out.
And by the way, somebody we're not talking about. The reason I'm taking the Vikings is Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. His yards per catch is off the chart.
Come on, man. It's too soon. Wait till the
No. I know. But if you look at Thielen's having an all-pro year. Jefferson is going to be up there in the top 5 rookie of the year. And for some odd reason, Kirk Cousins is playing with a QB rating above 100 for the last 3-4 games. I just think that, they got nothing on the back end. I think Teddy, if he comes back, will be hindered. His mobility in the pocket will be hindered. And that might be the difference.
But I don't think, Doc, I agree with everything you've said there, except for one thing. I think Justin Jefferson, he's going to struggle to beat out Jalen Reagor for the Rookie of the Year.
Oh, yeah.
I will tell you.
Wait
just to pile on. Let me pile on, James, because Justin Jefferson is one of 3 wide receivers with 18-plus yards per catch this season, a minimum of 40 receptions. 18.8 to be exact. The other 2, DK Metcalf and DJ Moore.
I mean, it's just such a shame, isn't it, James, that if he could only have traded up a few more picks to get Jefferson. Oh no, hold on. No.
Jefferson was 1 pick after Reagor. Yes,
he was still on the board.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. What's the next game?
Well, James, I can feel your pain because my team could use a Justin Jefferson. It's the Arizona Cardinals and the New England Patriots. The Cardinals fall to 12. How this happens, I don't know. The Patriots moved up to 17. What in the world are you guys thinking? Because I had the Patriots ranked at 23rd in my power rankings.
17.
I wanted to rank them lower. Understand that the way my rankings were the previous week, I could not move enough teams up to warrant moving the Patriots down far enough to where they needed to be. Because there were too many teams with worse records to move up, and I couldn't put them over the Patriots. Sorry.
I don't know how the Patriots moved up, but they did. They're 17. Oh, by the way, I should also mention the Vikings are the power rankings pick, even though they are 20th and the Panthers are 19. Home field advantage gives the power rankings the Vikings pick. All right, back to the Cardinals-Patriots. Cardinals favored by 2.5. Kyler Murray leads all quarterbacks with 10 rushing touchdowns. He's second in the NFL behind Dalvin Cook's 13. Cam Newton is second among quarterbacks with 9. While I believe Cam Newton will score another rushing touchdown, Kyler Murray's going to score like 10 touchdowns in this one. The Patriots are so up and down. I don't know which team is going to show up on which given day, but I do know this: the Cardinals are going to beat the Patriots. I do not think the Patriots can do enough to beat the Cardinals.
Yeah. So, considering you all got that win, what was it, Monday night against the Ravens, stymieing Lamar
Which was
Jackson.
Amazing.
Right. And, of course, weather was a factor, not the factor. I will say it was a factor.
Well, now I'm going to say it was the factor based on the way that they did not play against Deshaun Watson and the Texans.
Right. And don't get me wrong, Watson, Murray, Jackson, 3 different style of quarterback play. I would say Jackson and Murray probably a little bit more similar. Do you deploy the same game plan against Murray that you did against Jackson, hoping it works?
I think there's a better example.
He has better talent on the outside in Fitzgerald and Hopkins.
Well, what's interesting about the game plan is that the Patriots actually did shut down those 2 quarterbacks from running a lot.
I think it's still because last I checked, Watson was still trucking one of the twins into the end zone.
Yeah, I think there was that, but he threw like crazy, and he didn't throw to his wide receivers. He threw to his tight ends, and the Patriots couldn't stop it. Jordan Akins had like a career year against the Patriots last week. Go ahead, Neil. Add your thought.
Yeah, so am I right in thinking? I thought a better example for this game was more the San Francisco 49ers game against the Patriots, where we saw much more sort of running wide, sweeps out wide, and not running up the gut. And you often find with Lamar Jackson, he does spend a lot of time running between the tackles or very close to the line of scrimmage. Whereas I think you'll find that Kyler Murray will get to the edge and run those wider running plays. And that's where I think New England really struggles. I don't think their linebackers have the range.
What linebackers?
Yeah, the range. Well, you did tell me some guy called Bentley was going to be great, but he seems to have disappeared.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, and I think that's where you'll struggle getting, having linebackers to have the range to get out and to stop Murray running. I think with Jackson, he was running a bit more inside, and that was easier for you guys. So I think maybe the 49ers template is maybe a slightly better one than the Ravens one.
Well, the Patriots couldn't get any pressure on Watson whatsoever. They couldn't pressure the quarterback at all. They are letting their younger players start to play a little bit more. Josh Uche, who they drafted this past season, is playing a little bit more and is a little bit quicker as a linebacker, I guess we'll call him. But Bentley is definitely slow and big and laborious out on the field, at least this season. And there are no other linebackers to talk of. There's only bigger, slower defensive end type guys who can't get to the quarterback. On the same token, the Patriots' strength, or what was supposed to be their strength, is their secondary, and they have really been up and down all season. So I don't know. I do fear that the Cardinals are going to put up a lot of points on the Patriots. The Patriots, their only chance of winning is if they can get ahead and then try and hold on desperately to a lead. But I just don't see that happening. So,
there are three names on the Patriots injury report. We'll get rid of this very quickly. Only one I think is significant. And that's Rex Burkhead. He is out with a knee injury.
He's gone for the year. His knee, it was eerie at how close in time the Burkhead and the Burrow injury occurred, because they are very, very similar.
The other two names on the Patriots injury report are defensive tackle Adam Butler and running back J.J. Taylor. Care to comment on either of those? Well,
the Butler injury is he's been out for a while now, and he's a concern because he's the big defensive tackle to plug up the middle. And I think, as these little injuries to these guys that nobody else has ever heard of other than a Patriot fan, they start adding up, because then it's another guy that no one's ever heard of, including Patriot fans, who ends up taking his position and doesn't play as well as the guy that we all know. So,
all right.
Yeah.
For the Arizona Cardinals, safety Jalen Thompson is going to miss the game after injury to his ankle in the last game against the Seahawks. Murray is listed as questionable with a shoulder injury. Other Cardinals on the injury report include safety Charles Washington, tackle Justin Murray, and tight end Darrell Daniels.
Yeah, Murray lucked out that he had the extra few days to recover from that AC joint. So we'll actually see if Kyler Murray plays in this game. He probably won't have to play very long. They can start him. They'll get their big lead. They can take him out and rest him for the rest of the season.
21, 24, 28 points they pull him?
Yeah, something like that. Exactly.
Okay.
All right, 4:00 games. There's only 3 of them.
Oh, gosh, why?
That's the trade-off.
There should be 4 of them now.
It's a trade-off. Well, we don't know when the Ravens-Steelers game is being rescheduled for on Sunday. The other interesting point is that was the NBC game. So I don't think NBC is going to get 2 games.
No, they're not.
So, yeah.
No, that will probably go to CBS, and the NBC crew would just chill this week and wait for Sunday night, Packers and Bears.
There you go. So the first 4:00 game is the New Orleans Saints at the Denver Broncos. The Saints are 3rd in the power rankings. The Broncos are 23rd. Saints are favored by 6 in this particular game. Neil calling for the upset special here.
Adam and Eve on a raft, a cup of muck, and an upset special.
Yeah, that's I had to choose an upset this week. Obviously, that's what we do. And I did kind of think, well, we're not going to have Drew Brees, going up to altitude, and we saw them a few weeks ago. And I know Doc's going to start throwing drumsticks at me in a minute, but. The Saints had a rough game outdoors. No Breeze, with playing Hill at quarterback. Maybe if Lattimore's going to be out again this week. And I did see the Broncos are obviously not having a great season, but there is fight in those Broncos when you see them play. They keep things close, and maybe that would maybe be enough just to nick a victory here. Although obviously the Saints are favourite to win the game.
Doc, if I may, before I throw to you, I will tell you that that friend of mine, that's not you, who has a fantasy team, picked up the New Orleans Saints defense this week because they've certainly seemed to have found a stride that they didn't have early on this year.
They are right now a top 2 defense in the league. And that's why they won the game last week.
Yeah.
And plus, Michael Thomas is back. Can't guard Mike. 9 of 11, 104. Tyson likes him. And the coverage in the pass rush is just right now lethal. And 8.3 points a game in the last 2, 4.2 a play. Most of those 8 sacks, as I said earlier, were coverage sacks. Everything is coming together. Tyson was good. He was okay. It wasn't great. 40% off play action. And one of the bright spots is the newly traded Kwan Alexander, who is one of the worst tackling linebackers in the history of the NFL. But he looked good. He missed 0 tackles. He rushed the quarterback. He played with speed, covered tight ends. And our bright spot, with the lack of who I thought was going to be an all-pro player, Marcus Davenport. Trey Hendrickson is now tied for the league in sacks We have sacked the quarterback 32 times in 10 games. That is a top 2 defense. Are we peaking too early? Yes. I will say the back end of the Broncos, the defensive backfield will give Taysom fits, but there's way too much talent right now. I think we'll be able to run the ball, and I'm not too worried about the Broncos scoring too many points. That will be, I will say it's within a touchdown. I believe they will surprise, but there's not enough talent right now. Right now, the way the Saints are peaking too early. Even Football Outsiders, all metrics have them as a more than 8% better chance to win the Super Bowl than any other team, including the Chiefs. Why? I don't know. It's just they're peaking too early mid-season. They're not going to beat the Saints if the defense is playing like that.
By the way, the Denver Broncos have beaten your Saints the last 5 times they have played. The last time they played was in 2016, though.
Yeah, I know. Different.
Sean Payton's 0-3 versus the Denver Broncos.
Well,
Just saying.
Get the monkey off his back.
Just saying. The one positive here is that the Broncos have a minus 13 takeaway giveaway, having only 10 takeaways, 23 giveaways on the season. That's a ginormous number. Funny, I don't believe that's leading the league, though. 23 giveaways. Mike.
No, it's not.
Oh, somebody already knows who does. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what do we have more to say on this game, James? Go for
really,
it.
But quietly, the Broncos are 4-6, which is shocking because I thought they were a 2-win team currently. Injury report: Broncos, Joe Jones, the linebacker, Graham Glasgow, the guard, and Trey Marshall, the safety, are all listed as questionable. All 3 should play. For the Saints, Marshawn Lattimore and Dwayne Washington show up as questionable, along with Josh Hill, the tight end, Deontay Harris, the wide receiver, and Audris Pete, the tackle, who is in concussion protocol. You might want to keep an eye on that up until game time, especially on Saturday. Mm-hmm.
James, I don't know if this is good news or bad news for you, but no, 23 does in fact lead the league in number of giveaways.
Well, the season's not over, and there's still time for my quarterback to be number 1 in that category as well.
And there's another team that's ahead of your team with 21. The Dallas Cowboys. So there you go. All right. The next 4:00 game is the San Francisco 49ers at the Los Angeles Rams. The Niners are 18th in our power rankings. The Rams are now 5th. They are favored by 7 points in this one. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods became the first pair of NFL teammates in 10 years and the 4th pair in NFL history to each record at least 11 catches and 130 or more receiving yards in the same game. Oh, that's what I had on my screen that I deleted off. Silly me. The other combos that have done the same thing, the Houston Texans back in September of 2010 against the Washington football team, Andre Johnson and Kevin Walter pulled off the same feat. 12 catches, 158 yards for Johnson, and Walter had 11 catches, 144 yards. But then, Neil, your Washington team against Detroit in 1990, Art Monk and Ricky Sanders pulled off the feat. 13 catches, 168 yards for Monk. Sanders had 11 catches, 132 yards. And then the Dallas Cowboys did it to Detroit in 1985. Doug Cosby had 11 catches for 159 yards, and Tony Hill, 11 catches for 181 yards. Just, one of those completely useless stats that means absolutely nothing other than the fact that the Rams are going to win this game. James, stop saying my sentences before I even complete them.
I mean, you're taking a long way to get to the inevitable.
Yeah, it was I thought a very encouraging performance for Rams fans, seeing Jared Goff play so well in what was that, the first game without Andrew Whitworth last week?
Yeah,
I believe so.
Yeah, the first complete game. Yeah,
I thought that was very encouraging. I still think they're a pretty good team. I mean, obviously the defense is pretty good, and they've got 2 absolute, all-pro stars there in Donald and Ramsey. But I was very impressed. the Rams could be one of those teams who maybe sneaks up on us and finds himself sitting there in the championship game.
Well, sneaks up. They're 7-3, and they're in a good spot to win the NFC West.
Yeah, but everybody's talking about Seattle. Everybody's talking about the Cardinals, the Packers. These teams. Nobody's really talking about the Rams, as far as I can hear, and I take that directly from Good Morning Football.
Well, Neil, I hear what you're saying, and yeah, I've watched the same broadcast. And the reason no one's talking about the Rams because week to week we don't know what we're going to get from them. Yeah, they're 7-3, but you look at some of their losses this season. The first loss to the Bills was 3 points in week 3. Week 6, they lose at San Francisco 24-16, and then just 3 weeks ago, they lose in Miami 28-17 to his first start.
But remember, James, there's a key stat here. This is the team that swept the NFC East, and any team that does that is going to be some team.
Look, just because they're already division champions of the NFC East, I mean, look, the season's not over yet, and yet at the same time, they beat arguably 4 of the 5 worst teams in the league, but there's something about the lack of consistency in this team, and I think that's what bothers people. It's not so much how they lose; it's who they're losing to and when. You come off of basically a hard-nosed game against the Bears. You shouldn't lose to the Dolphins, and then go back-to-back, beating the Seahawks and the Buccaneers.
But if they are, Jay says they're 7-3. If they can get to the playoffs, they're the sort of team that can beat anybody. They can lose to anybody, but they can also beat anybody.
Yeah,
agreed.
That second part, that's the problem. Yeah, they can beat anybody, but they can lose to anybody, and that's what's disconcerting about the Rams. Like, I'm not taking anything away from they're a good team, and yes, this first game without Whitworth against the Buccaneers, the scheme was brilliant. Goff didn't hold the ball longer than 3 seconds. It was timely out of his hand on almost every single play. I think he had, one pick that was very bad. But the play calling as far as the jet sweeps to where Whitworth would have lined up to basically get his replacement, comfortable as far as the blocking schemes and everything they were doing offensively was brilliant. It was a wonderfully called game against a Buccaneers defense that everybody expected more from. On the flip side, you got 2 studs in Ramsey and Donald, and as long as one of them is pretty much on top of their game, the rest of the defense feeds off of it, whether it's the secondary feeding off Ramsey's hard-nosed play style or the front 7 feeding off Aaron Donald. They can go all the way. They could also choke and win lose a wild card game, or win a division and lose a wild card game. So the gambit of possibilities is still wide open for this team. And while it's hopeful for fans, for spectators looking on trying to call what this team is, it's head-spinningly numbing.
True.
Well, the San Francisco XFLers will put up a fight, but I think it will be fruitless at the very end of it. What do we have for injuries on that front?
Yeah, the Niners, not the XFLers. Tevin Coleman and Deebo Samuel, along with Jerick McKinnon, currently show up as questionable on the injury report. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles and linebacker also shows up as questionable. Those are the only big names there. For the Rams, Micah Kiser and Brian Allen are currently questionable for Sunday's game.
When do we start worrying about Deebo Samuel? When's he ever going to get a run of games, this guy? He always looks such a quality player, and a kind of modern wide receiver who can do everything, also run the ball, and yet he's always injured.
Yeah.
It's turning into another T.Y. Hilton.
Oh,
when he's there and he's healthy, he's a difference maker. No question about it. But when?
The Kansas City Chiefs are at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is another good game for the week, and the Chiefs fall to 2 in our power rankings, which is where they belong. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have fallen to 10th in the power rankings. The Chiefs are favored by 3.5 in this one. Buccaneers are allowing the NFL's 5th fewest yards per game, 310.5. The Chiefs on offense are averaging 414.1 yards per game, which is only good for 2nd in the league. Kansas City 5-0 in road games this season, which is tied with Pittsburgh for the best road record in the NFL. Chiefs head coach Andy Reid has the 5th most wins on the road in NFL history with 110. That includes the postseason. There is a write-up from Nick, which I will go get, but Neil is calling for the upset. Is it because the Buccaneers are not playing in prime time? Because that seems to be their weakness.
Yeah, really, eh?
Well, I think that this is. I mean, it's one of those classic matchups, isn't it? One quarterback who's been the greatest of his generation, and playing against the one who, at this moment in time, looks like he's going to be the greatest of his generation. So we love that sort of game, don't we? Antonio Brown, terrific model citizen, man of the people. He's starting to play well. Had quite a few catches the other night, so I can see this being a really high scoring game. I don't know what the score prediction kind of points in this game looks like, but it's going to be high. And hey, come on, the Chiefs. Maybe the Buccaneers have a good defense for the Chiefs. Quite a good pass rush, and that's what you need against Kansas City. So let's see. I think. Obviously, Doc is a Saints fan, so he's not going to say anything positive about the Buccaneers. But I think the Buccaneers have the chance.
I will. Fastest linebackers in the league. So what? So what?
Right.
Greatest quarterback of all time. So what?
So what?
You got an offensive line that is porous and ugly, and it don't matter. Tom Brady has got more pimples on his face right now because that offensive line. Tom Brady is nothing but an average quarterback if he doesn't have an O-line. Drop the frickin' mic.
Well, I will say this about Tom Brady. We talk about the cliff and how Tom Brady hasn't seemed to have found the cliff. I will show you that perhaps the cliff is here because so far, Tom Brady this season on throws over 20 yards is 0 for 19.
Yep.
Alternatively, Patrick Mahomes on 20-plus yards since 2018 is first with 94 completions, 3,234 yards, and 37 frickin' touchdowns in a year and a half. Now, let me pivot the conversation, boys. I was thinking about this. As a matter of fact, I lost sleep over it. Wow. What does Patrick Mahomes look like on the New York Jets right now with that roster versus a roster that's got more GD weapons than a third world country? Come on. What does his first year and a half, 2 years look like on the New York Jets with the same personnel?
I mean, if Adam Gase is the head coach, then, abysmal, and he's pretty much Sam Darnold.
No, I'll throw Reed over there too. I'll throw Reed starting from scratch.
I'll throw Reed over there. You take Mahomes and Reed and put them on the Jets' current roster?
Yeah. Where's Patrick Mahomes sit numbers wise, MVP wise, and all?
I don't think he gets an MVP, but the Jets aren't dead last, and they're not 0-16.
Well, that's a low benchmark, though. Let's he's not going to be. No Tyreek Hill.
I'd say that even if you just move the head coach and quarterback over to the Jets and replace what they have a head coach and quarterback with Kansas City duo, their team at worst hovering around 500 and at best competing for the division lead with the Buffalo Bills right now.
I would agree with that. I would say their floor would be 500, 8-8.
Yeah. But is he on the cover of Sports Illustrated?
No. If you're at 8-8, of course not.
No.
So I'm anxious.
His play would go down because of that roster. The rest of that offense, look, the offensive staff they have there, as far as line, running backs, they're leaning on Frank Gore. I mean, I know they have a young rookie over there in P. Ryan.
Why are we talking about the Jets again?
Yeah, we don't have to get knee deep in the Jets, but
still, they have no running game.
Yeah.
Their receiving core is abysmal. Yeah, I mean, obviously they won't be as godly as they are right now in Kansas City. They'd be a step back. You'd be more closer to the pack of quarterbacks as far as touchdowns, yards, and completion percentage. He wouldn't be setting the world on fire, but they'd be winning.
He'd be playing like the first 3 quarters of the Super Bowl last year, I think. He made some bad throws. I just think he is. I can't grade this guy. It's like I know he's great. He's so good.
He's good. I'm not quick to put great on him.
Did you see that touchdown drive at the end of the game last week? I mean, that was.
But take Kelsey.
The Raiders weren't even there. The Raiders disappeared.
Yeah.
I'll do you one better. How about the drive that ended in an interception at the end of the first half? Where was he looking? And if the receiver pretty much didn't do what you expect him to do, why are you throwing that ball? That's something that he should have either thrown away or tucked it and ran. I mean, he had the option to do both, and yet he tried to force something that wasn't available due to miscommunication.
I have said it numerous times on this show that Patrick Mahomes is going to continue to throw that ball because he gets away with it more times than not. That interception, more times than not, doesn't happen because Mahomes somehow magically makes it complete.
He's magic. But I just want to see him without. I'd like to see him half a season without Kelsey and
Hill.
I don't know. Just take two of those weapons away, and I want to see him squirm.
You can't. Hill, you've got Hill's replacement right behind him in McCole Hardman.
McCole Hardman,
right?
Not the same.
And, well, he's going to be missing one weapon this week because Sammy Watkins is questionable, injury undisclosed, so he may or may not play.
He put up 34, and he didn't even have Sammy Watkins, who had a key couple Super Bowl catches. I mean, my God, there's more weapons on that team. And no question, he makes them weapons. Mm-hmm. Sammy Watkins is an oft-injured, over-average wide receiver who sometimes, when he's healthy, can beat anybody on the field. But he's rarely on the field healthy. The fastest wideout in the NFL. The number one tight end in the NFL. And a backup receiving core unmatched in the NFL. What does Patrick Mahomes look like with an offensive line that protects his butt? He is the second coming of Jesus Christ by all measures, but I want to see him without an army. That's all I'm saying. I want to see him without an army.
Nick writes in, speaking of that tight end, the battle for the title of best tight end of the era kicks off for some reason not in prime time. Oh, and also some notable quarterbacks are playing in this one too. For real though, tight end Travis Kelce is a very quiet candidate for offensive player of the year as Mahomes pulls ahead in the MVP race. Mahomes is not winning the MVP. He's already won it, and Russell Wilson has never received a vote.
Doesn't matter anymore.
Gosh.
Kelce is on
the Buccaneers.
Kelce is on pace to finish this year with 1,433 receiving yards, again breaking the single season record for a tight end. During this week or next, Kelce will lock in his fifth straight season of 1,000+ yards, something Gronkowski only accomplished 4 times scattered around his career. Just saying, Monty finally has a worthy avatar. As we mentioned, Monty has a shirtless Kelce as his avatar, which is really disconcerting. Elsewhere on the field, the Chiefs defense needs to do some soul searching and relearn tackling as the Vegas Raiders once again had their number last week. Something weird behind the scenes caused them to use safety Juan Thornhill sparingly. Meanwhile, Honey Badger had a rare bad game, and this defense just doesn't work when it has to rely on dirty Dan Sorensen to make the key stops throughout the match. My soapbox opinion all season has been that the Raiders are the only team that has thus far played the Chiefs quote-unquote right by being aggressive start to finish, rather than just hoping to chew clock and hold on. This defense has plenty of holes, but the pass rush has bailed them out in games when teams play scared and don't try too hard to stress the Chiefs secondary. Tampa has the weapons to do it. The question is if they will, and whether the Frank Clark and Chris Jones can get in the old man's face enough to shut it down. Kansas City Goats 31-27, brought to you by CBD oil.
The Buccaneers injury report includes Jamel Dean, the corner, Ali Marpet, guard, and Donovan Smith, the tackle.
Without Ali, Tom going down. Chris Jones.
Well,
I will say this, though. The Buccaneers receiving core, Godwin, Brown, and Evans, is fast enough to, put some fear in the secondary of the Chiefs.
It don't matter when you got less than 2.3 seconds to throw the ball.
And there is my caveat. Does the line hold up long enough for them to do it? And 2, can Tom actually complete a pass more than 20 yards downfield?
No. Aaron Rodgers could, though, which brings us to Sunday Night Football. The Chicago Bears.
All right, last game of the week.
Green Bay Packers. Technically last game of the week, but not the last game of Week 12. The Bears are ranked 16th in the power rankings. The Packers are 4th, and the Packers are favored by 8.5 in this one. Aaron Rodgers needs only 165 passing yards to become the 11th quarterback in NFL history to reach 50,000. Devontae Adams is the 4th player in NFL history with at least 7 receptions and a touchdown catch in 5 consecutive games. He joins Pro Football Hall of Famer Chris Carter, who did it in 99, Adam Thielen, who did it in 2018, and championship TJ Hushmanzada, who did it in 2007. We are all taking the Packers, and Neil has locked them in.
Yeah, it's more about the Bears, I think, than the Packers. Gosh, the Bears have really fallen off a cliff. I think everybody was talking about that, wasn't it? When they were, 5-3 or something at one point, 6-3 something, and
they're 5-5, so they didn't get to 6-3.
No, so it's 5 and whatever. They're 5-1, 5-2, whatever. And we all kind of worried. Well, maybe the quarterback situation is going to come back to bite them, and that's what's happened. I just wonder when Trubisky is going to come back and start for this team. Is he off the injury report?
No. And this is an interesting thing. Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles show up as questionable. Trubisky still nursing the shoulder. He's expected to be available for Sunday's game against the Packers. As far as Nick Foles, says it's too soon to announce whether Foles or Trubisky will start the game. So both of these guys are supposedly available. We don't know which one is going to start due to health concerns. Both of them with shoulder injuries. Nick Foles has the hip. Trubisky has the shoulder. We might see Tyler Bray again.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
This game could be so far gone. We might see Jordan Love in this game.
I don't know, honestly, because the Packers inexplicably on defense 1 week look like they've got everything together, and then other weeks they look like they've never played football before, and that is my concern. That is the biggest wart for a team with a winning record right now, is that the entire defensive unit is wildly inconsistent. Can they get after the quarterback? Yeah, but only when they're up 10-plus points. The secondary doesn't play consistently week in and week out. Some weeks they're locking down wide receivers, and other weeks they let receivers from the Jacksonville Jaguars run through them like tissue paper. It's weird because outside of the two Smiths getting pressure on the QB on the edge, they can't do anything else. They can't stop the run. They're inconsistent in pass coverage. And they don't generate enough pressure to push quarterbacks off their rhythm and timing.
Yeah, we saw this quite clearly against the Colts last week, didn't we?
Right.
The Packers have won 7 of their last 8 against the Bears, so the Packers know how to beat the Bears. The Bears have quarterback problems. I don't think there's really much more we need to add to this, is there?
No, Rodgers has got
Montgomery. Montgomery's on the injury report as questionable for the Packers. Montravius Adams, the defensive tackle, and Corey Linsley, the center, are both questionable. That's about it.
I think the question that the listeners are asking, Jay, is, and I speak for them, is does Doc have a bear recipe?
A bear recipe. We'll have to think of that one.
Can you eat bear?
Yeah.
Of course you can eat bear. Why not?
I would assume it's like some venison. It would go good with berries, and because they eat berries, right?
Indeed.
With some honey.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
By the way, I think Rodgers has got to throw 3 picks. Allen Robinson's got to score 2 touchdowns against Kevin King, and Khalil Mack has got to show up, which he hasn't done most of the season. On the left side or the right side of that Green Bay line. Other than that, listen, the Bears are done. They can't go 5-1 to make it to the playoffs. So just forget about it. This is the end of the coaching era. It's the end of both of the quarterbacks era in Chicago. The D is something to sniff at, but I can't even watch that game because I know that 30% of the time I got to watch the Bears offense, and I would rather watch a freaking home improvement show. So
wow,
Doc, I say you're half right. I think the coach is safe, but both quarterbacks are gone.
Sunday night.
Yeah.
By the way, I failed to do a weather report this week. I hope there's no weather issues this weekend.
We've all missed that,
I don't see Trubisky or Foles coming back next season unless they're absolutely desperate. But that also depends on who's available in free agency and what they think they can pull off in the draft, because they're slowly climbing in from the midsection towards the top 10.
Well, Doc, on HGTV, you can watch Renovation Inc. From 8 to 10. Then it'll be Hometown. Oh, that cute couple.
Oh, a cute couple. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So,
well, guys, this has been a great week. We have to get together and do it again next week. Recap all of.
No, James.
Huh?
No. There's Monday Night Football.
Game of the week.
No, there isn't. It's canceled this week. There is no Monday Night Football. We're done.
James, if you want it to be canceled, there's an easy way. The Seattle Seahawks. I'm sorry. Are we still? Is it still too early for COVID jokes? I keep forgetting.
No, I think we should right now debate the right kind of cheese to put on your Philly cheesesteak.
Oh yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
I think we should be debating at what point do the Eagles cave in and put Jalen Hurts in at starting quarterback.
James, who breaks first, Carson Wentz or the Eagles fandom?
Well, the fandom is already broken. So
I'm talking totally down. Like I'm talking about like suicide prevention lines lit up. Forgetting recent Super Bowl.
It's kind of hard to see how the fan base isn't there right now, considering the play this year. I mean, 3 victories, a tie against a team that we should have beat handily. I would dare I say that a lot of the fan base, I'd say at least 80-90% of them are already there on pretty much like, let's just quit on the season now. Just
the Eagles are lucky to the fact that there's no fans in the stadium because they'd be wading through.
No, there are fans.
3 feet deep of snowballs and batteries by now.
James, I will tell you this: that after the Saints Super Bowl in February of 2010, and then we walked in 4 years later into one of the worst defenses in pro football history. Mm-hmm. It's easy to forget your Super Bowl and your magical time. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to debate about Jalen Hurts and the degradation of yada, 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 and jump off a cliff and woe is me. No, you still won a Super Bowl. You had a magic time. It was less than 36 months ago. You had a Super Bowl parade. Put it all aside. Enjoy food on game day and relax. It's going to be okay, brother.
And just lie back and dream about Frank Reich.
Yep.
Oh, gosh. Neil, to answer your question, the coach, as we were recording, NFL Network switched to a press conference in which Coach Peterson said that Carson Wentz is our quarterback, period. So
yeah, there's no Jalen Hurts is going to change. 18 to 27 sacks in 5 losses. He's getting sacked 1 every 10 snaps. Come on.
And here's the thing. I watch a lot of the Eagles post-game stuff on through all their social media platforms, their recap of the games with the All 22, and I'm looking at it, and for every sack, and I seriously mean this, every sack that Wentz is taken, he's holding the ball for no reason whatsoever. There's at least one guy who is open. At least one, because everyone's not running a stop or stick route. There's some people who are running ins and out, crossing the middle of the field, and they're continuing their routes, trying to give him something to try to bail him out. He has safety valves in the running backs, but hey, for some reason, he doesn't like throwing the running backs. He likes throwing at their feet when he does do it. But there is no reason for him to take this many sacks. And people can say, well, the receiving core is not. No. The receiving core is getting open. The problem is that one of those 2 wide receivers I told you I would never mention again for the rest of the season has been forced into the lineup, and when he's out there, Carson Wentz feels his need, I've got to throw him the football. And he shouldn't be.
Harold Carmichael? Who is it?
I wish Harold Carmichael was out there right now. Trust me. Things will look so much differently with Harold out there, running around towering over DBs. Just throw it up there. I'll go get it. But no, that other guy, who wears 17, and he's forcing the ball to him when he's in the game. And out of the 10 passes he's thrown to him is 2 picks and no completions.
Surely Alshon Jeffrey will be back soon.
Yeah. So again, that guy needs to be cut or bench him for the rest of the season. You're taking away a roster spot from a capable receiver who can get out there and actually do something. The last 2 games, he hasn't even targeted Travis Fulgham.
Yeah, but James, come on, James. You're just waffling on about all sorts of crap as usual.
The team sucks.
The problem. No. The problem here are 2 things. It's coaching, because you've got players on that defense that are still good on the defensive line. You've got what's happened to Zach Ertz on the offensive line? It's just disappeared. And then
Zach
you got
Ertz hasn't
Wentz.
played since his injury.
Wentz's problem is between the ears. It's not anything else. I mean, and that's all to do with coaching. It's all coaching.
Mm-hmm. Trust me.
Well,
I
love how you guys just jumped into this game. I didn't even give you the specifics that the Seahawks are 6th in the power rankings, favored by 5.5. Eagles are 26th. But James, I just wanted to make sure that you too had your alternatives lined up, because you can watch some reruns of Fixer Upper. But at 9:00, there's a brand new Bargain Mansions on HGTV. So you'll be able to take your mind off that.
Pod, should I choose not to, torture myself by watching this debacle of a beatdown the Seahawks should give us, because they do have the worst passing defense in the league, and we have a quarterback who likes giving the ball away to the other defense. So one of these things has to give or not. I don't know. Who cares? All the alternatives that I'll be doing, let's see, since this is Turkey Week and there are, quote, Black Friday deals still going on all month, the new Miles Morales Spider-Man game is out. So if I acquire that this week, I will be doing one of two things instead of watching the game. I'll either be playing Destiny 2 or playing Miles Morales Spider-Man. One of those two things.
Okay, let me drag you back to reality for a second, James, if we may.
No. Let's stay in fantasy world.
Planet Earth misses you. I would say, okay, you're sitting there next April. You've got a top 5 pick in the draft. Are you taking a quarterback?
Ooh.
Unfortunately, the answer is no, because last year, was it 2019 offseason? Yeah, the 2019 offseason, this team decided to inexplicably give Carson Wentz a 4-year, $128 million contract. So that's guaranteed money over a long period of time, and I don't think they want to take that cap hit, and they're not benching him at all. I mean, I would like to say, can he return back to the 2017 season in which, he was looking like an MVP? The answer is no. But I need him to round back into form to be at least a competent quarterback. I mean, I would rather have almost any of the other current 31. No.
You want Cam Newton? I'll make that trade straight up for you right now. I'll take Carson Wentz off your hands. You can take Cam Newton.
Hold up, Pod. Before you jump up there, let me pause. Not starters. I would take any of the other 31 backups in the league right now.
Mike Glennon?
Philadelphia.
Mike Glennon?
Yes.
Mike Glennon?
Yes. Give me Mike Glennon. Give me Jared Stidham. Give me Brian Hoyer. Bring back McNown. Give me Blaine Gabbert. Who's left in Washington that hasn't played yet? Give me them, the quarterback off the practice squad.
Boy.
Just give me somebody other than Carson Wentz right now.
Just lower his microphone a bit. Just quieten him down. So
does Nick Foles come back next year?
PJ Walker.
It's over for James. All right, that was a long way of saying we're all taking the Seahawks. James has locked them in. Remember, thrivefantasy.com. You'll get yourself a $50 bonus with your first $20 deposit. Just go to thrivefantasy.com or download their app. It's available everywhere great apps are found. I forgot to read nextfanup@gmail.com. Our good friend Paul in New Zealand wrote us and has said he's enjoyed the pods, but it said there are 2 small points from last week. One, I insisted that the Patriots are 2 games out of the AFC East lead. Buffalo is 7-3. New England 4-5. 7 minus 4 is 3, but I don't know what he's trying to get at. Anyway, you mispronounced
currency exchange in New Zealand. Yeah.
You mispronounced the surname of the safety Miami traded to Pittsburgh last year. As a Doll fan, I should tell you that Minka's last name is actually Fitzpatrick, which is what he did in Miami. Keep up the good work. See, that's not really fair, because Minka Fitzpatrick hasn't quit on Pittsburgh. He just quit on Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you not quit on Miami at that time? Right. I mean, they weren't doing anything right, and they had to get rid of every single person of worth to rebuild this team. Look, it's working out for both of them right now.
It's true. They're both in a better place.
And Miami is on its way to the playoffs.
There you go. So there you go. Nextfanup@gmail.com. That's how you email us. At NFU Podcast on Twitter, Facebook.com/NFU Podcast for recipes, and continue the conversation. Our website, nextfanup.wordpress.com, also where you can get Doc's recipes. Although I'm behind, I'm like 3 recipes behind. I really gotta tighten things up.
Well, listen, if you got any last minute, whatever, just tailgatehomegate@gmail.com. I'll just take this time, Pod, as we give thanks this week to say, get down on your knees and put up your paws and thank the good Lord for the use of your jaws and sweatpants. To each and every one of you, including you haggis, turkey stuffing Brits and Scots, I should say. Whoa, the bad mistake. Happy Thanksgiving to all your families. Boys, it's been a long year, eh? Let's give thanks. We got football and food and fun. The 2 things, football and food, that are only getting us through this shite show. So I give thanks for being able to talk NFL once a week when I can and share some food with you, dude. So have a happy gobble gobble.
Well, thank you, Doc, for everything that you've shared with us so far this season. We still got 5 more weeks. Amen. Although James and I really don't have 5 more weeks. Where our weeks are done, but we're still watching because we still.
Are there really 5 more weeks?
5 more weeks.
Yeah. Hey, next week, if the Eagles lose by 3 touchdowns, we'll definitely do. What's your favorite cheese? Provolone, cheese sauce, or American cheese for the Philly cheesesteak, and we can wax poetic about that.
See, it's too bad Neil has already left because Neil would have asked you for your favorite Eagle recipe.
True that.
But
well, I'm having it tomorrow. It's called turkey.
There you go. For Doc, for Neil, for James, I'm Pod Vader. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. Here's Kofi Annan. There you have it.
Dear friends and colleagues, saying goodbye is never easy. I believe we can all feel proud of what we have done together. And through it all, you have maintained your professionalism and commitment and remained true to the spirit of the Charter. That principle.
We go out, we hit people in the mouth.